Well, we got a lot of junk. So this is that saw I did the measuring on. I had to raid this junk pile over here in order to get it going. These are a pile of 390s and 385s. I needed things like the internals for the chain brake and clutch and a drum and all that kind of stuff. This cover right here in buck and spike. Unfortunately, those 385s crossed, you know, and I was able to get the saw up and going. That unfortunately came from Cyclops, so I have to go get myself another couple of handles. I didn't realize I didn't have any. Huztl, John Thread, 2166, 372 X-Torq, top end's a Huztl X-Torq top end as seen in the video. No base gasket, although it was decked on the lathe. 385 started out with a crack, and I was literally going to throw it away. So it's ugly, I don't care. Got it fired up. I got some little details I got to fix. For example, this plug wire is too long. I may have to go in there and do something about that. It's too close to the fins. That always gives me erratic running. I don't think it'll be any different on this saw. I'm just going to put it together with an 8-pin and an adapter, steel mount. This is like an 18-inch Tsujihara. This is what used to live on my Cyclops saw for the longest time. So, which was a Huztl top end as well. This here might be taking its place. And the first brush is, I had it set at about, I don't know, 14.2, and that's where it had a nice little 4-stroke wrap on top, and I left it right there. I may get rid of this carburetor. This carburetor, when I put it on here, that actually had come off a saw that had problems. And the solution to the problems with the new carburetor. So what a surprise when I put it on this saw and it started acting the same way. But after I ran it for a little bit, I don't know, it started running a little bit better. And then I ran into another problem. And that is, see that? Watch. When I go full throttle and then relax, I actually have to push the throttle plate closed with my hand because the low-cost throttle cable is not flexible enough. So I first thought, oh my god, I got an air leak. It won't settle down. Then I realized what it was. It was simply that throttle cable not letting that throttle plate come down. So I may go in there and see if I can't give that another turn. So when I run it, and it jumps down and runs on for a second, no, it does not have an air leak, but it does have a situation where that throttle won't close all the way. So, debug, and yeah, I got to cut a section off that. That's another Chinese aftermarket ignition, and I didn't use those. I have a couple of them. I was just going to throw them away because I had issues with them. I have this black OEM Husqvarna where if this starts to give me trouble, I'm just going to swap over to that. But I got this stuff laying around, you know. It's either use it or throw it out. So I figured I might as well start using it. Pull start worked out pretty good, you know. That cylinder, the casting quality is actually pretty good. I'm not going to go in depth on it. You'll have to go back and look at the other video. And I'm not sure how much analysis I actually did. It has 3-bond 1184 for sealing on these caps. No rubber grommet. And 1184 in the cylinder base. I just want to see how long that works, you know. And what can you say? So I'm going to put it together, fire it up, and then make a little addendum just to show that it runs. than that goofy little throttle table thing, you know, it takes a little bit to clear out. I think this thing's got some serious potential. The other thing is I got a Huztl oil pump on there. And I'll tell you what, it does pump. I may have to figure out how to turn it down. I'll shoot a couple pictures in there. And I got to finish the cover. Just a few little details on it. And there's that Huztl. Oh, you want to see it pick up a couple hundred RPMs, pull that thing right off. Boom, starts breathing again. It's kind of funny. I'm going to leave it on there for a little bit, you know, until it breaks in. But there it is. Another fugly saw. That muffler has character. It had a split that went all the way down and around. And this was so bent. This was off the 380. Both these were off a 385 that had been skidder modified. So I kind of hammered that back. And to me, this is fun. I had to cut up one of these to make a heat shield. Here's what's left of it. I went and cut up a 385 and made it fit. I didn't have a 372 one. And when I got that bolted on, I hit this with a torch and let it sort of relax so it wouldn't keep stressing the muffler. I mean, the whole thing was all bent. But I think what I'm going to do on this saw first is take that carburetor and see if I can get an extra turn on that spring so it actually shuts. And the second thing I want to explore, see, I wonder if I can graft this carburetor. I don't see why not. Now this is yeah, I think that'd fit right on there. So here's the deal, even if this doesn't fit, I can take this one and put it on that boot. That boot looks like it's about the same in diameter. So anyway, rambling, but I might try to adopt a carburetor from a 390. That's I believe it's a WJ18 or something like that. I think that needs more fuel. I gotta do something about that right there. It just doesn't go back. Well, I can't get that throttle to shut all the way, so I turn the set idle screw in just a little bit, so at least it's consistent. Yeah, that thing oils all over the place. I'm going to set that at a 13.7, like my original plan. It's comfortable at 14, but I want to set it at 13.7, a little bit fat, and let it run like that for a little while. And then do a plug check and see what we have. I'm a little surprised that Chinese ignition works as good as it does. A lot of those I found to be erratic. So this is going to be Cyclops 2. And we'll debug it. I've got some plans on porting. One of the things, like I said, I wanted to explore was a different carburetor. I was rummaging around for I didn't have a carburetor for these X-Torqs. I didn't have one. I built all this saw from just stuff around the shop. Nothing was, you know, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a full saw. This is just bits and pieces that I, you know, scrounged up to build this thing with. And So I didn't have a carburetor, and I was rummaging around in a box of carburetors that were effectively ruined in my mind. I found this one, and it still is not right. So, but I want to see if I can't blend a 390s carburetor onto this saw. Just bear with me on that. I think there's more power in this saw, and I do believe I'm going to have to feed it more fuel. I really do. I got those screws out almost like 2 turns, and they're responding, but they should be at pretty much the end of their adjustment. So basically what I've got is I got that carburetor feeding as much fuel as it can. That's all it can do. And I'd like to go to a carburetor that handles this saw easily, and I'm afraid I have to go to a larger displacement saw that has, you know, larger jets. The good news about this is, well, it runs, you know. The bad news is I'm going to have to debug it. But anytime you do something like this, that's part of the, in my mind, part of the fun and games. I'm curious on how the rest of the saw holds up, the handle and stuff like that. I've had one of these on Cyclops for a long time, and I had to change the pull rope like within a couple of weeks. So I'm expecting that to go too. It's got good compression, but since I raised that exhaust so much, it's not killer compression. I put an 8-tooth sprocket on it. That's a Huztl side cover. And you know about the cylinder because it was in the last video. I don't know. I know it's twisted, but I kind of like taking stuff that has no value and seeing if I can't bring it to some level of use. My hunch is this is going to be just like Cyclops. I think it's going to outperform our expectation levels. One more thing I want to do. I'll do a couple of trivia questions. See, I don't know who watches my videos, but I'm going to start putting up trivia questions so people can start learning about other saws. First trivia question. This here is no longer available at Air Filter. Do you know what very, very common Husqvarna that came on? So there's your first trivia question. And here's your second one. I'll give you a hint. This is John's thread and it's gold. Does anybody know what these are? That's the trivia question for the day.